the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department says it's making interventions to assist areas in the country that have been hit by devastating floods in recent weeks. In fact, I think it's true to say in recent years. In KZN, at least 40 people have lost their lives, 5 are still missing, and dozens more have been displaced in areas including Ladysmith and Pietermaritzburg. In Gauteng, flooding has led to some residents being displaced due to infrastructure damage. Let's get you more on this story. We're joined this morning by CoGTA Director General Mbulelo Tshangana. It's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming onto the program, sir. It's a question that I've asked a number of other guests in relation to this story, this issue of disaster management intervention and the fact that we are very much still reactive as opposed to proactive. Is that something that you're aiming to address as CoGTA?
Good morning, Michelle, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, we have been addressing it. Michelle, we do have contingency plans. The disaster management centers, both National Disaster Management Center and the Provincial Disaster Management Center, they have been working flat out since September the 28th, and they have packaged contingency plans to deal with the proactive aspect of the disaster management center and also the responsive aspect of the disaster management aspect of our work.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, in a context where so many people in our country do actually live in these low-lying areas. If I think of Johannesburg and the Yixkay River, for example, people have built their homes on the very banks of that river, and that obviously becomes a major safety issue in the event of heavy rainfall, which we've seen in Johannesburg just this past week. How do we then become proactive in a context where, if really we were going to find a solution, it would mean rehousing or finding an alternative solution to housing for so many of our country's people?
Yes, Michelle, the bigger problem is about urbanization in cities like Johannesburg. As you know, that Johannesburg is receiving thousands and thousands of immigrants, both international immigrants and also local immigrants. So the bigger problem is how to deal with urbanization and also planning properly for the migration patterns. But this would also involve land management plans or land use management plans. So there are a number of challenges that we are dealing with. For instance, in our report, in planning for the disasters, human settlements leads on human settlements matters, which includes accommodating those people who have been displaced, also providing material to the communities whose houses have been affected. So it is a big challenge, and we're not unique. South Africa, you've seen France in November, they were dealing with floods. You've seen Brazil, you've seen India. So we're not unique. I think climate change is affecting a lot of countries, including ourselves.
Certainly. And it's going to take very much a sort of combined approach. The word escapes me now, but an approach that's going to involve several arms of government and several government departments, I should say, right? It's going to take you as cooperative governance, as you say, human settlements as well. And then, of course, there's the issue of municipalities and how we deal with things like our sewage systems, allowing the water to drain away so that it doesn't present this kind of safety issue, for example, if someone is crossing a low-lying bridge in a vehicle.
Michelle, on Friday, the 29th of December, 2023, Minister Gauteng chaired an intergovernmental committee on disaster management. All the sector ministers were in that meeting: education, transport, agriculture. It takes the whole of government to deal with this challenge of disaster. Provincial joint operation centers are active. They have been activated since the beginning of November. As you know, in the Western Cape, they deal with fires in summer. In KZN, they deal with floods in summer. the provincial joint operation centers in KZN, both the provincial and the municipal one, are active. The Provincial Disaster Management Center in KZN is active. In the Free State, the provincial cabinet has declared a disaster, which means that all the departments, both national and provincial departments, must come up with response measures to assist communities that are affected. So the work is, it involves all spheres of government, and it involves all departments. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, I will be chairing the National Joint Committee on Floods, which involves all the DGs, the national DGs. The last one was attended by the DG in the presidents. So you're quite correct. It involves all of government, including non-state actors. I'm sure you have seen the NGOs in this work, whether it's your gift of the givers or other civil society organizations assisting communities. So it takes the whole of government and the whole of society to deal with disasters.
Yeah, climate change is here with us. We're seeing the effects every day. We've seen the effects around our country. As you say, it's not something that is unique to South Africa, but it is ultimately a response issue, right? We're going to see more and more of those effects as the years go by, but the question is going to be, does our response get better? Does the treatment of people who are forced to find shelter in community halls because their homes have been destroyed, are we better capable of providing that shelter, allowing their children to go to school, and so on? You know, home affairs, getting people their documents because they've been washed away in disasters and the like. It's our response that's going to be the important thing, and hopefully that's at the top of the agenda when you meet this afternoon.
That's correct, Michelle. In any disaster, the best test is the speed of response. I'm sure you've seen the Premier of KZN on the ground, the MEC of CoGTA in KZN, interacting with communities in Utugela and other districts. The most important thing is to be present. And the most important thing that communities want when there is a disaster is demonstration by government that we care. And that's why there's visibility. And that's why we move with speed together with non-state actors to provide what is needed to communities, whether it's blankets, whether it's food, and whether it's shelter. We also don't want to keep communities too long in the community halls. Yes, community halls, they come in as a stopgap measure, but the intention is to make sure that we don't keep people too long in those community centers. So this afternoon we will be talking about the response measures by various sector departments, by provincial disaster management centers and municipal disaster management centers. You correct?
Yeah. Mbulelo, Tshangana, let me thank you for your time this morning, and we look forward to speaking to you again to hear more about the outcomes of what will be an incredibly important gathering this afternoon. The CoGTA Director General joining us this morning.